if you guys are Hellraiser fans, man, you need to figure out. I would go to Days of the Dead next weekend because
No
Clive.
way, can't.
Well, it's supposed to be Clive Barker's last year of doing shows, and that's like the only one he's scheduled for.
Oh,
Yeah,
Ah,
he announced last week that he's not doing cons anymore and that he's just focused on writing. So I've got a pretty. I just remember those, like they come back to me. Like I said, I've done too many of them, so I've got a actually this fits the category of two stories. So you're asking if I have anything super rare, plus any like good encounter. So this is a great story. So um, he's dead. He died now, but a couple years ago, during the height of the pandemic, probably the height of Omicron, honestly, Days of the Dead was still doing shows, and they had Rico Browning here. If you're familiar with him, he was the last living Universal monster. So for Creature from the Black Lagoon, they actually had two
wow.
actors that played the creature. They had one that was on land doing all those scenes, and then they had the guy who was swimming underwater. That was in that creature suit. That's the part that Rico had played. So he was probably a good 94, 95 years old at that point. His daughter was doing a lot of his signings and everything. Yeah, nice. His daughter was doing like a lot of his handling and everything, and I had offered to go to the diner down the street and get him food. And so they're like, "Oh, that's so nice of you. Like nobody's really gotten us food or whatever. Like everybody's been kind of preoccupied." I'm like, "I'm not doing anything. I'll go." I was working with Hal Havens from Night of the Demons, the pig squealy guy or whatever. And he was doing something. He was at a panel or whatever. So I offered to go down and get them food. So I went and got them food at the diner, waited and everything. I brought it back, and they're like, "Well, if you want, you can just have anything you want to sign." I was like, "Well, I do have a print," and like, "All right, well, we'll sign more for you. It's not a big deal." So I had my killer print. I have him next to the creature and all that. They gave me, I want to say I have an 11 by 17 like holographic creature from the Black Lagoon poster signed by him. And then the better part of the story is they asked for help for transportation. They were like low on people, right? So the his flight was at like 5 in the morning the next day, and I lived probably about 45 minutes away from the convention. So you have to get to the airport, an hour, 2 hours beforehand. Thankfully, Indy's airport is like a pretty straight shot to get through. But dude, I showed up to get this man, and like I was driving, it was raining, and I'm white knuckling it. I'm like, if I get into an accident and I kill this guy, I am killing 3 generations of fandom, at least, if not 4, for people that have grown up loving Creature from the Black Lagoon. I was like, that was the most nervous I've ever been. I got him there fine, and it was nice because he was in poor health, so he had a mask on the whole time. His daughter, I did a picture with him. He took his mask off for me. It was very nice. So yeah, they were great. I mean, he was a very sweet man. He could hardly hear, but the very little conversation I've had with him, he was a nice guy. So,
so
That's awesome.
Brandon, this is kind of a question, and maybe it changes. It's different for each. I don't know what you like to call yourself, an agent or a representative.
Yeah.
For what do you call yourself?
Booking agent.
Okay, a booking agent. So what do you have to? I mean, is it different for everyone? Because we have noticed on some of them that they supply the photos, they take care of the booth and all that kind of stuff. Is it different for each booking agent, or is that kind of the norm in the business that I take care of all the pictures and have them there for you to sign, or what is the norm on that? Because I mean, you go to these conventions and sometimes they got a lot of stuff out there. Sometimes they don't have hardly anything. And then,
Jamie,
do you have to be the handler? Do you have to handle all the money coming in? I mean, what is that? How does that normally work?
Like Jamie Kennedy had like 20 different pictures to get signed. It's like, who's bringing all those?
Yeah. For me, so there are probably a lot of different schools of thought on that. Here's how I look at it. I have them pay for their own prints and their own banners. The reason why is because prints themselves, now I try to find them the best deal on prints and quality and everything. Prints are 73 cents to 82 cents a print, something like that. They get about $150 worth of prints. They're going to make that money back in one autograph. But for me as an agent, now I don't rep big name people like Sean, and I appreciate everything that Sean does. I want to make that clear, and every other agent out there, Samantha, Chris, all those guys, Peter, like all the horror agents, I have such respect for. But for me, I have clients that maybe make at most on a big show $10,000. And that's the biggest show. Like on a regular pop culture weekend, it's probably a little more of like anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000. And for me to be a booking agent, only taking 10%, I get $200 to $400 on that. And if I've only got one guy going to a show or two guys going where I'm only going to make $200 to $400, well, I just spent $150 of my money and I didn't really make a lot. Whereas they're still going home with $3,000 to $4,000. And I had to spend money out of my, that's how I look at it. The other reason why I have them do it that way is they're the ones kind of selling themselves. It's almost like they're going to a flea market and putting stuff out there for themselves. So I feel like it's the ethical way to go. Now, if I were a booking agent who was making, $1,000 to $2,000 per client, I'm not going to say names or agents' names, but I know of someone at a con in the fall who brought home $50,000. That means that agent brought home $5,000, right? Yeah, $5,000. So that means, he probably could. The agent probably could have made been okay with spending $150 on prints for that person.
Right.
So it's one of those things.
Some of these guys are knocking out the bucks. Like we were talking about Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
He may not have made as much as Atlanta on Mad Monster, but like on the one I was at in Mad Monster in Charlotte, North Carolina, I had 3 things signed. So I gave him $180. He was charging $60 an autograph. I gave him $180 in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes.
Yep.
Some of these people, especially Scream and some of the bigger Scream channels.
Matthew Lillard's line was insane.
I bet you he made $50,000 to $75,000 himself, maybe $100,000 himself, just on that weekend.
He had an insane line the whole weekend there in Atlanta. Matthew Lillard did, but so did Nev Campbell. She had a big line.
Yeah, but she didn't charge it. I think she only charged 60 or 70, 60.
She charged $100 for a photo and an autograph.
Right.
Matthew Lillard charged
60
what?
For the autograph and 40 for the photo.
Matthew Lillard was the most expensive. Matthew Lillard was the most expensive person there, besides maybe the guy from Star Wars that played Jango Fett. I can't remember if he
Kane Hodder was charging $80.
Who?
Kane Hodder was charging $80.
Yeah, that was high for him.
He went up 20. He went from 60 to 80 within a couple months.
I heard somebody was
Atlanta.
Well, and that's something to think about too. Is a lot of these guys, again, they're selling themselves. It's some of these guys, it's their bread and butter. Others, it's work in between jobs. So, but especially for the ones that are
during the strike.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Especially during the strike. Even so, like, especially for the ones like some of the Power Ranger actors, that's all they did, or they didn't do much after. So this is how they're making money. And if it's their job, they want to raise just like anybody else.
Yeah.
So they've started at $20, $30, $40, and they're now up to $60, $80, $100 an autograph. And it sucks for the consumer, but it's one of those things where it's like, all right, they're trying to keep up with trends, the times, how many times I've been here, how many times I've been to this region or this area. They if they've been back tons of times to, like you said, Atlanta, whereas like, hey, let's say I sold 10 autographs for $40 each, but I come back and now I'm only meeting 5 people, but I'm charging $60 or $80 for an autograph. I'm still going to make that nugget, of people who haven't been here before, like you. You said you're 40 and you just went to your first con. There's a lot of people out there like that. I started going to them when I was 27. So 25 actually. So it's like, it's people come into this different times, different ages, and others have been in it a lot. Others, there's crazy guys out there that have, every single Jason mask up here, that they want to get signed by each Jason, and individually.
Right.
So they'll spend it. They'll space it out. They'll get those autographs. So
So yeah, you're right. There is a lot of people that want to get, like, I saw people like they went to Matthew Lillard. They were getting a Scream mask signed. They were getting a Five Nights at Freddy's mask signed. They were getting, they wanted a picture of him from Scooby Doo. They wanted, they wanted all that different stuff. So I mean, people do
me, Five Nights at Freddy's. I was thinking about maybe getting something from him for that, because he's the killer in that.
Right.
I've seen it, but yeah, I mean, so it's one of those things where it's like they start to do more. Like, I would love it if Patrick Dempsey would do a con. For the longest time, he just had the Ghostface. Now he's in Thanksgiving, which Thanksgiving is on my top 10. I don't even know why I didn't talk about that earlier, but holy crap, I love Thanksgiving.
I thought it was okay. Yeah, I thought it was a really good horror movie. It wouldn't be in my top 10 by any means, but it definitely was fun for what it was.
For me, I hadn't seen, like, I feel like there hadn't been a new slasher like that in a long time. Terrifier, it counts, but Terrifier is almost getting into Saw territory where it's like more torture stuff. Whereas Thanksgiving was just a sigh of relief of, oh, thank God we can still have,
a
pure slasher in a costume. And it's funny, I was sitting there watching, I was like, man, that'd be dope if he talked. And he fucking talked. I'm like, yes. And I loved the voice modulator they used on him, and like how that whole presentation of the chick, like as the turkey, like that was fucking awesome.
That was cool.
She's doing a con in Knoxville this summer, and I'm like, ooh, I really want to meet her and talk about that scene. Maybe. But yeah, I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Can I ask you a quick question? I know we went way over here. We're gonna have to wrap this up here, but so you talked about Ari Lehman earlier, and evidently you like him. It
was nice to me, dude. Yeah. Real quick. So when my cat died, my obviously I've got plenty, but when he was mine, like he was like my soulmate, like my companion, like he was on me all the time. Like it just, when we had to put him down, like it's like all the breath in my lungs just escaped. And he put a post out that week of like, like, is there anybody going through anything or something? And I put like, yeah, I lost my cat. And I mean, he could have just been like, sorry for your loss, man. No, he put this long ass paragraph, like, oh man, I'm so sorry, blah, 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 like went through. I wish I could find it. But I was like, wow, this is so cool that he took the time to actually like feel me where I'm at. I think he compared it to like one of his dogs or something that he had lost. But that to me, between that and this, that meant a lot to me.
That's cool.
So I've seen interviews with him, and that's what I was kind of going to ask you about. And he's talked about, listen, he signed a lot of stuff. A lot of the value of the stuff he's signed is not very high. But he's made comments before that he was not a big fan. He's come out in the last year or two and saying he wasn't a big fan of the big horror conventions because it was about making money off of people. And he said that it was charging astronomical prices. And he was probably hitting Kane Hodder because Kane Hodder, I guess, and him don't have, unless it's just a big joke, but it seems like both of them kind of hit at each other a little bit. But do you feel like that's probably the case with Ari Lehman, that he'd much rather be in a bar and playing with his band and signing autographs after that than he would a horror convention and charging $60, $80 like everybody else when he'll sign it for $20 or $25 at his shows?
Yeah, I mean, the dude's a Midwest guy, lives in Chicago, I think. I'm pretty sure. That's the vibe I get from him. I know there was like at one point there was this big rivalry between him, Warrington, and Steve of who's the true first Jason, because it's like, well, I was Jason because I popped out of the lake. Well, I'm Jason because you saw my face. Well, I'm you saw me kill first, so I'm the first Jason that kills. Like that's what Steve would always say. So it's like there was always kind of that back and forth rival between the three of them. But like, I don't know, like he's always seemed like the more personable guy. I don't know, man. It's hard because CJ Graham, at one point, we were talking I'm really good friends with CJ's wife and him too. Like there was one to meet
him.
And he did an awesome job as Jason. One of my favorites.
CJ and Ruby are two just wonderful people. Like I'll talk to Ruby on the phone sometimes. Just she'll give me advice or whatever. She helped Chris Majors get started. She helped she's just like, hey, this is how you got to be type of thing. And she's looked out for me. And there was one point where I was sitting in a green room having dinner and was talking to CJ and I was like, I this and that, Ruby that. And I'm like, how do you know my wife Ruby? I'm like, you know her. And I'm like, oh yeah, your family. The fact that he even just said like, oh, your family, like, oh, that meant a lot. You know what I mean? Like there's little things like that just really, I don't know. Like I said, I feel the love more in a horror con in a horror setting. There's just, I don't want to go into it real deep, but there's a lot of cattiness between Power Ranger fans, sometimes with the actors and stuff too. They're always kind of trying to flex this and that. And I'm like, man, this is a kid show. Like, right. I don't know. It's just, it can be kind of right. And it's weird because it's like, you're talking about a franchise that's been around for 30 years that has always been PC. That's always been about diversity and teamwork and, different colors of the rainbow and stuff. And just, you see so much arguing online between these fans. And it's just like
crazy.
Yeah. But like horror. Yeah. I know there's drama in some pockets, but it's just always been about the love. And I don't mean to talk down about Power Rangers, and the fans. I like, obviously I love the fans too. Like they're, I've made so many good friends. My buddy Tom is a great friend of mine, Quentin. These guys I've met in the Power Ranger world, Jeremy, all these other guys that, I know, like, that whatever, like there are nice people, but people, I'm more talking about the people that I don't know. Like you get on the Facebook groups and they're like, screw this, they'll make fun of each other, F this, F that, whatever, toward each other. And they're just mean. And, it's just, you don't see a lot, I feel more confident about posting things in horror groups about my pickups and, my autos and stuff that I found in your page and like in horror pages. Cause I know everybody's like, cool, like, oh, that's great, whatever. Yep. So it's more supportive like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah. It was, I mean, my first experience at a con was nothing but good. It was really good. It was all positive in my opinion. Mike, I don't think Mike ever had any issues at the cons he was at, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think it's been really great. But we probably should wrap this up. It's been an hour and a half. Well, hey, Brandon, what have you on?
Yeah, we told you only an hour, right?
Hey, man, I'm cool. The only person I can see getting annoyed is the missus over here. She's probably wanting to watch a little Love Is Blind tonight. So
yeah, so I gotta ask you one question. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Halloween Ends.
Look, let's talk about it really quick. Can we? I've got time.
Yeah, let's go.
The 2018 trilogy. All right. Now, I am of the rare breed that I guess I didn't know this was a thing. I've been seeing it online literally the last week with the news of the Halloween TV series coming out. Mm-hmm. I am a firm believer in like Michael Myers and Laurie Strode are brother and sister. I've always liked that. That's what I grew up with. Halloween 2, it makes me mad that they ignore Halloween 2 because it's the rest of the freaking night. Like, how do you ignore half the night? I feel like it took away, when they, in the 2018 movie, they were like, well, Michael Myers killed 5 people. I'm like, that's it? I'm like, nah, the rest of the night, he killed like 10 more, or however many. Right. And like, it takes away the appreciation. Now, of course, there were 5 guys that played Michael in the first one, and Dick Warlock played, Michael in the second one.
He's great, Michael Myers, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the Michael. Where is it? That's the Michael figure I have. I've got the 2-pack with Donald Pleasance and the Michael Myers 2. I as you can see, I've got a lot of the Jason figures, but not the Michael Myers ones. I just don't really care about the 2018. Now, the first one, the 2018 one, was okay. Like,
it's almost watchable.
It's watchable. Like, that's one I could go back and watch.
Yeah.
I feel like it, because the two things they wanted to get away from was that, again, they ignored the second one and they wanted to get away from that it was her brother. And
right.
They talked about, oh, that was just a rumor. I'm like, well, they could have circled back around to have him still being the brother.
Right.
My thing is that, like, what's the point of him chasing her around then and having this connection if he's not her brother? You
Well,
know,
because she was like the babysitter that survived.
I guess, but then like if you watch like okay, so again, this is where the multiple timelines have a problem. So it's like you see him going after Jamie Lloyd through 4, 5, and 6. It's like okay, he's trying to go after his bloodline, like Lori, and then her, and then H2O. You've got her son and her, and it's like
Right.
it was all family, and
Yeah.
then minus Resurrection. So it just man, we watched Halloween Kills at home. I was like, I really wanted to see. So like, I had a good experience going to see Halloween 2018 because I saw it with my parents. My parents and I hadn't seen a movie in theater in a while. And my wife and I went with them, and so we were like, having a good time. Like I grew up. It's so weird. We watched Halloween as a family when we were kids, so it was cool to kind of have that back. And that was again, it was all right. Whatever.
Yeah,
I kind of was able to ignore it, hoping that they would kind of bring it all around. But then Halloween Kills. It's like, oh,
Evil dies tonight.
Yeah, Evil hangs out in a crowd for an hour. Fucking just the mob mentality of that movie just sucked ass.
Listen, a great part of that movie though, I think it's amazing is when at the beginning where Michael Myers walks out of that flaming house and he's standing there. That is a really cool shot, in my opinion. I love that shot. That's the best thing of the whole movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then Halloween Ends, dude. Look, Rowan Campbell is the sweetest guy. As much as I hated that movie,
Corey, the guy who plays Corey.
I went to the Halloween 45 convention in Pasadena this past summer.
Oh! Mike wanted to go to that so bad.
I did. I went. I spent money. Holy shit, I spent money. But I loved that guy. He was like the nicest guy. Well, no. Him and the guy who played the adult, he played the bartender in Halloween 2. He played Lonnie, as I think is his name. The guy who was Tommy Doyle's best friend, whatever. Yeah. Those two guys were like the nicest guys, but Rowan was super nice. Like, he was like a Matthew Lillard. He sat there and talked to everybody personally, whatever. Didn't tell him I hated the movie, but like I don't know. It just like, what were their intentions here? Because it's like you're talking about Halloween Ends, the bookend to a trilogy, and you're trying to introduce this new kid as the killer, but like Michael's only in 8 whatever. I think the clock time was like 8 minutes or something. It was really low, 15 minutes, something like that. He wasn't in much of it.
Brandon, yeah. He didn't show up till 45 minutes in the movie. We timed it, didn't we, Mike?
That's what it is. Yeah. So it's like, okay. And then he's hiding out in a sewer for 8 years or however long it was. And then this kid comes along, and yes, he does. And this kid comes along, and he just lets him go nuts, and he lets him do the killing for him. Or I'm like, no, dude, Michael would kill him in a freaking heartbeat. Like,
dude, Corey beat him up.
Yeah, no, I was
Band nerds beat Corey up, and then Corey beat Michael Myers up.
Yeah.
And I don't care about people saying it's because of injuries, it was because of COVID and he was old or whatever the hell they want to come up with. Evil survives. I don't even want it. David Gordon Green sucks ass on all 3 of the Halloweens and The Exorcist. His ass needs to go to something else.
Hey, Brandon.
Yeah.
This guy ran out to the theater and paid money to watch it. It was so disappointed, man, when he left that theater.
I was so mad. Even my son who's 13 goes, damn, they made that. He didn't say damn, but he's like, God, Dad, he made him look like a wimp. And I was like,
yeah.
Well, how do you do that?
Going like, and I know we got to wrap up, but going back to like, is there anybody you wish you would have met or whatever that's dead now? George P. Wilbur, that was a big bummer because he died he died in 2022.
Who was that again? I'm sorry. The voice.
Michael Myers in Halloween 4 and 6.
Oh, okay.
What was his name?
George P. Wilbur. So they literally had every living Michael Myers, I think, at this convention.
Oh.
Did you get to meet Atkins?
Who?
From Pasadena? Tom Atkins?
Oh, I didn't. I could have. He had a really, really, really long line. and I was actually trying to get to LA. Dude, they had LA HorrorCon the same day.
Oh,
So, or the same weekend. So my friend and I wanted to get to that for a couple minutes, and I had already gotten all my stuff. Like I had a day pass, and I was able, like, it was kind of like there wasn't a lot of like, so they had like a lot of the Michael Myers, like from 4, 5, 6, and the Rob Zombie ones out in the hallway. And then I had met Chris Durand in a different one, and Brad Lordy at a different one. That's H2O and Resurrection. So I really wanted to get those middle ones. And so, like, they had, Michael Lerner was there, who just came by you, by the way. He was from Part 6. And then Brad something, he was in the TV version of Halloween 6. And then, like, so I was able to, like, get, like, I've met every living Michael Myers now. It was funny because at first, it was all Jason stuff, and then I was like, all right, I got a couple Michaels, but like Jim Winburn's passed away. So you guys know, like, about the original Halloween, right? Like there's 5 guys that played,
yeah. Nick Castle's the most famous, though, right?
Well, he did all the main ones. Tony Moran was the one who took the mask off.
Tony Moran's the one that's kind of like not well liked in the circles of like fandom or whatever.
I guess I don't know. He's always been nice to me. He lives like.
I heard he's talked a lot of crap about a lot of people or something.
Maybe, I don't know. But then Jim Winburn, he was the one that fell out of the window when he got shot. He's dead now. He died last year, and then, or 2022. Yeah, it still feels like 2023 to me. And then Will Sandin obviously was the kid, but then Tommy Lee Wallace, who directed the third one. He was also like the stunt coordinator, or like one of the coordinators. He had to Michael had to punch the closet just right to be able to bust in and get her. So he just put the suit on and did it. So he counts as Michael as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to go to. My wife's already blessed the H50.
And that's the last one that I think I've heard.
Yeah, I think Sean was telling us that that's the last one he'll do, and he said there won't be another one after 50. He says if there is, he's not doing it. So I do want to get out there. Who knows if Dick? Hopefully Dick Warlock will still be alive then and can make it. But I definitely would be that one.
Dick Warlock is supposed to be around you, I think, at a con somewhere soon. He just did Monster Mania up in Jersey. He's doing a few. If you go to rostercon.com, you can usually see the actor and then where they're going.
Rostercon.com?
Yep.
Okay.
But then also just following a lot of the social media pages and stuff. Like, yeah, I think he's doing a lot of those shows. But yeah, he was one that was priority for me. He did a Horror Hound 2022. And I was like, no negotiating. I got to go to that one. Kind of like with Scala, dude. They've got and again, I love Skeet. I love Matthew. And then Dermot started doing them from 6.
Yeah.
It's like, man, there's not been any other freaking horror, like Scream Ghostface Killers. And then Spookala, they've got Mikey Madsen from the girl from 5. They've got Liana Libido, or however you say her name, from 6.
McCulkin's going to be there.
Culkin's going to be there from 4, and then the kind of killer, the guy from Spider-Man is going to be there too. So, and then plus Melissa Barrera. They've got that's great. Yeah, they've got the chick who played La Llorona, the Curse of La Llorona, the whatever, the crying.
I couldn't get through that movie. I thought it was horrible.
Oh, really? I like that one a lot. So yeah, I don't know why. The Conjuring is like, I like those movies, but like for some reason. And I do count that in a lot of people don't count it, but it's got the father from Annabelle.
Yeah, no, it counts. Oh, yeah, by the way, Mike, I looked up the most successful horror franchise, and it's the Conjuring. Conjuring franchise has the most money. I looked it up.
Not surprised. I feel like we still need a proper ending to Paranormal Activity.
I've only watched like 1 or 2 of those, dude. I never got into them, but
they get pretty good. Like 3 and 5, those are my 2 favorites out of that franchise. And honestly, like they ended it on a cliffhanger in 6, sort of, and they never really explained the witch cult or whatever that was getting them all around. And I'm like, dude, like they did Next of Kin, but it was like not even about any of that. Interesting.
Those movies are. I don't know. I mean, I heard some of the later ones are not bad, like you said. But Brandon, we're gonna have to have you back on to talk movies. We need to just have you back on, not to talk about horror conventions. We're just gonna be talking movies next time you're coming on.
Yeah. Well, I wore my, you can't really see it because I was trying to show you my stuff, but my Final Girl shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
dude. Next time we have you on, we just need to talk about movies and characters, and like that's going to be the next time we'll have you on, right, Mike?
Yeah, and we may have to talk to you about designing a Real Dead, a Real Dead logo for us since you're a graphic designer, right?
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
We've been talking about doing that for a while now, but since you got all your expertise in graphic designs, maybe we can talk to you about that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, man. I'll be back on anytime, whenever you guys want.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on. But yeah, so that's it. And just we'll talk to you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. That's Brandon and Mike. And we're Real Dead.